India is known as the leader of the small passenger car. In fact, 70% of our passenger car space consists of them. And while cars are generally growing in size across segments, our compact B segment is still going strong. The Celerio sells well over 9,000 units on an average on a monthly basis. And the Santro, well, this one too has crossed 9,000 units in November. The Celerio and Santro, in fact, are the flag bearers for the B1 segment. Compact and feature-packed, these cars aim to cater to all the needs of the small car buyer. But today, we're here to explore yet another aspect to these cars, the automatic angle. The Celerio, in fact, was the first car to bring the automatic transmission to the masses in the form of its AMT gearbox. Now, the benefits of the AMT gearbox are twofold. Firstly, these cars, the automatic versions, cost a little over 40,000 over their manual counterparts, so they're affordable. For traditional automatic cars, will set you back by around 1 lakh rupees over their manual counterparts. And the second factor? Well, it's the most important one when it comes to this market, fuel efficiency. For these AMT models, they return identical fuel efficiency figures as their manual models. But it's not all a win-win scenario for the AMT, for these systems are known for their jerky gear changes. So much so that Hyundai once said that they will never make an AMT car. But with the new Santro, well, here they are. Although Hyundai claims that their system is smoother with an electronic actuator, whereas Maruti's system in the Celerio uses a hydraulic actuator. Well, has it worked? Let's find out. Now, this new Santro shares a lot with the previous generation i10. The overall silhouette of the car is identical to that of the previous generation i10, and in fact, the 1.1 litre engine is also borrowed from the previous model. Now, incidentally, this 1086cc 4-cylinder 12-valve engine also did duty in the previous Santros. Now, the engine feels fairly quiet and refined to drive, for Hyundai has reworked this engine for this car. Power delivery is linear, and while acceleration is adequate, it's when you start driving faster that you want this engine to rev a little more freely and you wish that there was a little more power at hand. But for average city driving conditions, this engine offers more than adequate performance. Now, moving over to the transmission, this 5-speed AMT gearbox is actually the smoothest AMT gearbox I have ever used. Now, that's down to the electronic actuator which I mentioned earlier, which has really helped smoothen out gear changes. Now, when you're driving with a light foot, most of the time you can't even tell when a gear change took place. It's that good. So Hyundai may have taken their own sweet time to come up with an AMT transmission equipped car. But now that they have, I think it's totally been worth the wait. That said, once you start driving faster, that's when the cracks begin to show, for its AMT roots become instantly visible again. Now, driving faster will bring out that typical AMT transmission head nod. For every time you hit the rev limiter, the transmission takes its own time to give you the next gear. So while Hyundai has really bettered the AMT transmission for all of us, some of those drawbacks associated with an AMT transmission are still very much there, and it's just the nature of the transmission, so you'll have to bear with it. Of course, the other way around it is that every time you want a gear change, just lift off the throttle a little bit and get back on it, and the system will just give you the next gear. So in city conditions, the Santro is a rather nice car to drive. The steering is light and the transmission helps you deal with our heavy traffic conditions. But it's when you hit the highway that the chinks in the armor of the Santro start to show. At higher speeds, the Santro's light steering wheel is what turns out to be a real killjoy. In the center position, there's barely any feedback. In fact, there's a bit of play. You can do that and the car continues to go straight, as you can see. So that's a bit worrisome. So while the Santro has definitely taken the AMT game forward, let's take a look at the strongest force it has to reckon with, Maruti Suzuki Celerio. Now, after driving the Santro, when you hop into the Celerio, what you instantly notice is that the Santro's gearbox was smoother. But of course, our road conditions are largely unpredictable. There's a cyclist going to cut your way, there's a biker that's going to come in your way. When there's a sudden change in momentum, you tend to catch these AMT gearboxes off guard, and it's at that moment that the Santro system is smoother. So no matter which AMT car you pick, you're going to have to work around some of the issues of an AMT transmission. Now, be that as it may, the benefit, of course, of the AMT is phenomenal fuel efficiency, as close as you can get to a manual transmission equipped car. And on that front, it's the Celerio that's going to work for you the best. For this car has a higher ARAI rated figure than the Santros. But now that we're done with the urban driving conditions and the fuel efficiency part of things, what happens when you take a Celerio onto a highway? Well, the answer to that is a good one, because the Celerio is definitely more confident on a highway than the Santro. The steering setup, which is heavier in this car than the Santros, definitely works in your favor. In fact, this car has very decent ride and handling traits, and the steering wheel has a fair amount of feedback as well for an electronic system. So all of this comes together very well on the highway. Now, coming to the engine of the Celerio, this car has a 1-liter engine. It's a 3-cylinder, 12-valve unit, which means you get 4 valves per cylinder. And straight off the bat, I have to say that this engine is leagues ahead of the Santros, for the simple reason that Maruti makes the best petrol engines in the business. Now, this K-Series engine revs freely throughout its power band and is always eager and asking for more. So that makes this car a little bit more fun to drive as well. And when you factor in this engine to the AMT gearbox, aside from those delays in gear changes that you might come across, which, like I said, you can overcome as well by lifting off. So once you do that, this engine in every gear will rev to the red line, and acceleration is really brisk and nice in this car. And that's the beauty of an AMT gearbox. It does not hinder acceleration like a traditional automatic gearbox. Now, in the interest of fairness, I have to point out that this Celerio is the pre-facelift model. But the changes here are limited to a new front bumper, which makes the new car look a little wider in profile. The car also has a new grille, but that aside and some minor cosmetic changes inside, this car is mechanically identical to the car on sale today. Now, when it comes to the cabin of the Celerio, I have to admit that it's beginning to look a bit dated now, simply because the Santro's dashboard layout is so good. But it's not so bad in here really. The plastic quality is fairly decent. You get your dual tone color theme going, so it's not too boring to look at. Coming to downsides, well, the cabin does feel a little narrow and you're a little short on space, you know, sometimes when you try to get the seat belt and all of that. Things I like, well, it's a B segment hatchback, B1 segment actually, but even then, you know, you get your steering mounted audio controls, you get Bluetooth connectivity. It's all really great stuff. So the B1 segment has really grown. It's nice to see these cars, and there's, you know, the customer generally has so much choice now. That's a great thing. Well, the Celerio, the AMT model, can be had even in the top-end ZX IO option, which means you get a tilt-adjustable steering wheel, you get a height-adjustable driver's seat, you get ABS, and you get dual front airbags. Now, the Santro AMT is only available in the sports model. That's the highest variant that you can get. There's also Magna AMT, but the sports is the highest you can get. That car only gets 1 airbag. So the Santro's dashboard is what really works in its favor when it comes to the inside. It's got a very nice black finish on it, looks premium. So in this green shade exclusively, you get these green inserts around the air vents, the center console, and the seat belt too. The black plastics feel fairly upmarket too. The switchgear feels high rent as well. So everything is of good quality in here. Now this touchscreen system, it's very nice to use on its own. I just wish there was a rear view camera display. I also have to say, unfortunately, as good as this system is here, the speakers that is hooked up to, they're not very nice at all. The sound quality is not so good. Another aspect I don't like about this cabin is that the power window switches are on the center console here, behind the gear lever. They're a little fiddly to use now. I know that once you start using them, you'll get more used to them. But at the end of the day, if you and your passenger are going for the windows together, you'll just end up holding hands. And that aside, these door pads, they're all polished up now, they look nice. But after a couple of years, just an empty door pad, it's not going to look so nice at all. Another aspect I don't like, and this is not just related to the Santro, this goes out to both Hyundai and Maruti Suzuki. I mean, come on, you guys are selling cars for 5.5 lakhs ex-showroom. The front seats, they're one piece. It's an integrated headrest. It's not so nice. I mean, it's 5.5 lakh rupees, guys. Throw in a couple of headrests. So that was an analytical view of both these cars. But what do people see in both these products? Why would they prefer one over the other? Well, they see that the Celerio has been around for a while now. They know that it's a tried and tested product, it's a Maruti Suzuki, and they know all the strong points that it offers. As for the Santro, well, it's just a newer product. People are going to be looking at it, they are noticing it, partly down to the bright green shade that we have here. Also the legendary Santro badge. A lot of people are drawing a mental connect with the Santro of the previous times, which they love so much. Now, a lot of the youth are going to be buying these cars, and they connect with the Santro simply because it's a newer product and it's cool, it's trendy, all of that stuff. So people are definitely going to be drawn by that appeal of this car. At the end of the day, the Santro offers a more modern package with its exterior styling and its cabin, which definitely looks more modern. You get your touchscreen system and whatnot. So that all is going to be working in your favor. However, if you're going to be choosing between these two, know this, that if you like driving, the Celerio is the one you want. If you want a smoother drive and just a car to roam around in the city, the Santro is the one for you.